Welcome back to All About Winning Daily Fantasy Sports. My name is Ty Patton. I really look forward to this time of the week where I put together all my research for my videos and build lineups using the fantasy pool that I've created through the week. Before I get started, I want to recap the player pool and share some projected ownership numbers that I have for you. These are the quarterbacks. If you've seen my quarterback video, you already know who these are. I did subtract one, but these are the quarterbacks that I'll have in my player pool to build lineups. Lamar Jackson, Drew Brees, Deshaun Watson. I took out Garoppolo. I had him as kind of on the fence, and I decided I'm not going to use him. Dak Prescott, Derek Carr, Kyle Allen, Finley from Cincinnati, and I added Tom Brady. Some ownership numbers. Right now, Watson, from the site that I use, has higher ownership than any, at 11.74%. Underneath him is Jackson, 10.45%, which makes sense. The two top highest owned quarterbacks are coming from the game with the highest game total, and that's usually how it is every week. After those two, in my player pool, Drew Brees is 7.79%. Prescott 6.57%, Derek Carr 4.14%, Allen from Carolina 1.76%, which is kind of surprising. I thought he'd actually be higher, and Finley 0.59%. The running backs that are in the player pool are as follows: Christian McCaffrey, Ezekiel Elliott, Alvin Kamara, Le'Veon Bell, Josh Jacobs, Tevin Coleman. I'm removing Brian Hill from Atlanta. Dalvin Cook, Singletary, Gore. I removed McKissick. I have Mixon, and I added Sanders from Philadelphia. So once again, running backs: McCaffrey, Elliott, Kamara, Bell, Jacobs, Coleman, Cook, Singletary, Gore, Mixon, and Sanders from Philadelphia. I originally had Brian Hill from Atlanta, and McKissick, and I've removed both of them. Some ownership numbers on the running back position: McCaffrey 21.96%, and Dalvin Cook actually leads the way with 25.29%. Then Christian McCaffrey and some others: Ezekiel Elliott 14.04%, Alvin Kamara 7.02%, Le'Veon Bell 10.05%. Josh Jacobs 20.40%, kind of high. Coleman 16.89%. As I mentioned, Cook 25.29%. Singletary 9.18%. Gore 2.82%. Mixon 3.06%. And I didn't have the ownership on Sanders. I'm pretty sure Howard's going to be out. They did sign Jay Ajayi, but I think Sanders is going to get the bulk of carries tomorrow. They do have that rookie Boston Scott, but I feel like he's a nice ad. And one of the reasons I removed McKissick, the reason I removed him is because Ty Johnson is expected to play. If McKissick was going to be the main ball carrier, I would have had a lot of interest in him. He'll probably go back to his third down role. He catches a lot of passes out of the backfield. And Hill, there's going to be a lot of ownership towards him, and I'm willing to take the loss by fading him. It's for him to get value. It's not like Samuels. Samuels was 4,000 a few weeks ago. This guy is almost 5,000. To get value, 15 or more points. And I just think in this type of game, in Carolina, it's got a high game total, and I don't think he's just going to catch a whole bunch of passes out of the backfield from Ryan. So there's been a lot of talk about him, and I'm just going to, my preference is I'm going to fade him, and I'll go down and get somebody like Sanders, who has a little less ownership. Wide receivers: Michael Thomas, Mari Cooper, Edelman, Evans, Godwin, DJ Moore, Marquise Brown from Baltimore, Tyler Boyd, Mohamed Sanu. I removed Auden Tate from Cincinnati. Ted Ginn. I added Julian Edelman, and I already had Edelman. I'm sorry. And I added D.D. Westbrook. Some ownership numbers. Thomas is the highest, understandably, and he's the most expensive, 9,900. I've never seen that price salary that high for a wide receiver, but he's 24.72% ownership. Amari Cooper, 8.56% ownership. Edelman, 9.68. Evans, 11.76. Godwin, 16.16. DJ Moore, 6.64. Marquise Brown, 9.68. Tyler Boyd, 7.80% ownership. Sanu, 7.88. Ted Ginn, 2.88% ownership. Tight ends. Andrews, these are the ones in the player pool. Andrews from Baltimore, Waller from Oakland, Cook from New Orleans, Olsen from Carolina, Ebron from Indianapolis, Hockenson from Detroit, DeWilly from San Francisco, and Tyler Eifert from Cincinnati. Some of the ownership numbers, Waller has the most right now, 12.98%, followed by Andrews with 10.58%. Cooks from New Orleans, 2.76%. Olsen, 6.60%. Ebron, 4.34%. Hockenson, 4.36%. DeWilly, 0.84%. And he's playing the team that has the worst VVP versus the tight end position. I guarantee if it was Kittle, it definitely wouldn't be 0.84%. Arizona bleeds points to the fantasy or to the tight end position. So that'd be interesting. I might up my shares for him. And Tyler Eifert, 3.60%. He's one of my favorites this week as well. Defense special teams in the player pool: San Francisco, Buffalo, Dallas, Minnesota, Oakland, Carolina, and Arizona. Ownership: San Fran, the highest out of the players that I have, 12.45%. Followed by Buffalo, 11.14%. Dallas, 2.79%. Minnesota, 4.47%. They're one of my favorites. Oakland, 1.77%. Carolina, 6.64%. And Arizona, 1.63%. And I'm surprised that ownership is that low. I heard a lot of talk, and I'm sure that ownership will go up because they're 1,500. Doesn't take much to get value. If you're just going for minimum value, you're looking at 5 points to get there, and doesn't take much to get there. And if you get something like a return for a touchdown, you just smash that value. So I did want to do a quick game by game breakdown before I share a lineup that I built and the optimized lineup that I have for you. Houston at Baltimore. Baltimore is a 4.5 point home favorite, highest game total on the slate at 51.5 points. This has potential to be a shootout. I look for Baltimore Jackson to do more through the air. I look for Marquise Brown to do some damage to be able to get over the top. But I also think that Houston will be able to move the ball on Baltimore as well. One player, and I don't have him in the player pool, but one player that feels pretty intriguing is Carlos Hyde, and he's getting about 20 carries per game, and he could be the difference maker in this game, and then a player that actually keeps the game really close. I do believe it'll be close. They're only a 4.5 point home favorite. Two dynamic quarterbacks, good receivers. I don't know that Baltimore will do much with Mark Ingram against Houston, but I look for Watson and Ingram, or Watson and Jackson, and DeAndre Hopkins, as well as Marquise Brown. Tight ends will probably factor into it too, as well. And I'm thinking a game in the area 27-23, something like that. New Orleans at Tampa Bay. New Orleans is a 5 point road favorite, second highest total on the board at 50 points. New Orleans coming off a loss. Drew Brees and Michael Thomas, they have a phenomenal matchup against Tampa Bay. who are one of the worst teams versus wide receiver. And I look for New Orleans to bounce back. But I also think that Tampa Bay is going to be able to put some points on New Orleans. Now, they're not going to do it on the ground. New Orleans is pretty stingy versus the run, and Tampa Bay is pretty stingy versus the run. So this sets up as quarterbacks putting the ball in the air. Some really good receivers in this game. Would like to get all kinds of exposure to it and stack it up. Is really expensive. You got Michael Thomas at 9,900. As I mentioned earlier, I don't know that I've seen a wide receiver of that high on a Draftkings slate. But all kinds of pieces that you can stack in this game, and I'll definitely get some exposure to it as well. Atlanta at Carolina. Carolina's 4.5-point home favorite, third highest total on the board, 49 points. There's a lot of interest in Brian Hill for Atlanta, replacing Freeman. And Atlanta wasn't using Freeman that much anyhow. And the carries and the game that Hill had last week, that was due to them having such a huge lead on New Orleans and basically just trying to run out the clock. And they didn't have to put the ball in the air. So I feel that Hill's game that he had last week was due to the game itself, how the game script, and if they're not in the lead, I don't see him being relevant at all. And he's getting a lot of ownership. There's a lot of talk about him. He looks like a free spot at 4,800, and a lot of people are talking about Samuels from Pittsburgh a few weeks ago. He was 4,000, and he was the free spot and allowed you to get to other places, spend up in other places. But I kind of going to stay away from that. I just don't see him getting the value, and I don't think he'll smash the slate. So I'm fine with fading him. But Carolina, obviously, you have McCaffrey. This sets up for a really good matchup for him. Kyle Allen, the quarterback, DJ Moore, Greg Olsen. I feel like they're going to be able to put some points on Atlanta. Atlanta's coming off a big emotional win against New Orleans, but they've had the propensity this year to fall flat on their faces, and I wouldn't be surprised if that happened this week. A lot of recency bias. People are going to be on Brian Hill for that reason as well. I do think Atlanta will be able to put some points on the board, and actually the way you do want to move the ball against Carolina is on the ground. But I just don't feel that Brian Hill is going to be the guy that gets it done for Atlanta. Next up, Cincinnati at Oakland. Oakland's 11.5-point favorite. This spreads actually went up. The game total is 48.5 points. Cincinnati's bringing the rookie quarterback, making his second start, first start on the road. I just don't know that Oakland should be that big of a favorite. I mean, they've been playing really well. I just have a sneaky feeling that Cincinnati is going to compete in this game. Not so sure that they'll win the game, but I feel like it'll be closer than 11.5 points. But in all fairness, last week, Finley in his first game, Baltimore's defense actually outscored Cincinnati's offense. He had a pick six and he had a fumble return for a touchdown, but you can't always count on those things every week. He is a rookie coming out of college. He was touted as a very accurate passer, but I can see Cincinnati getting some things done through the air on them with Boyd and Eifert, which I have a lot of interest in those two players at their salaries. And I think this will be a back and forth game, and it'll be more competitive than that point spread. For Oakland, I believe they want to give Josh Jacobs the ball as much as they can, and have Derek Carr just manage the game and get a lead and control the game and shorten or slow down the pace and shorten the game with their running game. Next is Dallas at Detroit. Dallas is a 7-point favorite. Game total is 46.5 points. And Detroit's going to be starting Driscoll again. Stafford's out. So the wide receivers take a hit. He did put the ball in the air 46 times last week, I believe. Yeah, 46 times last week. And for Detroit, Dallas coming off of a loss, a tough loss to Minnesota. I think this is going to set up for a Zeke game. He hasn't had that really big ceiling game. Detroit is number 31 or 32 versus the running back position. And I have a lot of interest in Zeke. I would probably lean more to the Dallas passing game had Stafford been in there, and thought it might be a more up tempo game, but I don't see it setting up like that. And I mean, Darius Slay should be covering Cooper. Slay hasn't been shut down this year, but he's not a slouch, and that takes way with Dallas. You either got to go running game or the passing game. I don't see Dak and Zeke getting there. And for Detroit, Johnson's supposed to be playing. I had a lot of interest in McKissick because I thought Johnson's going to be out. Johnson's actually in the game, so I lessened my interest in McKissick. He'll probably revert back to his third down role and catch some passes out of the backfield, but I don't want him in my starting lineup. I had a lot of interest in him when he was, as I said, when it was uncertain whether or not Ty Johnson was going to be playing, but I don't think the running backs for Detroit are going to play a factor in this game at all. So, next game in New England at Philly. New England's a 4-point road favorite. The over/under is 44.5 points. I really like New England coming off a bye and off of a loss. There's not been much talk about them, and I really like New England. The game total, 44.5 points, will probably scare some people away. Their defense is pretty stingy. Philly's run defense is good. Their pass defense is getting better. But this is Tom Brady, and I have a feeling this is going to be a Tom Brady spread the ball around, pick you apart game. I like the pieces that he has. Edelman, I like James White. I'm still looking for James White to have that real big game. He's had some good numbers, and if he ever starts falling in the end zone, he's going to have some really big numbers. But I don't think this is Sonny Michel and pounded out against Philly. I think Philly will put some points on the board. Howard's going to be out. Miles Sanders will be getting the bulk of the carries. At least Howard was listed as, I believe they had downgraded him to doubtful. And keep an eye on that. That's a 4 o'clock game. So if he's out, I have a lot of interest in Miles Sanders. I have an interest in stacking this game, and I'll show you here in a minute when I show you the lineup that I'm working on. But I definitely feel that you can differentiate yourself by getting some pieces of this game and stacking it up. Arizona at San Francisco. San Francisco is a 10-point home favorite. The over/under is 44 points. San Francisco coming off their first loss on Monday night, and I think they'll probably be angry. They want to get back to running the ball and playing defense. And Breida is probably going to be out. Mostert, he will get some carries, but I think this is going to set up as a Tevin Coleman game, maybe something similar to what we've seen a few weeks ago against Carolina. These two teams did play a few weeks ago, and it was a really close game, 28-26, something like that. And I think it's going to be a lot different in San Francisco. Arizona does have a rookie quarterback. They do like to run a lot of plays, a lot of fast pace, and if they get behind and he has to put the ball in the air, it could have some adverse results for Murray tomorrow. I don't think it's setting up for a good game for Murray. But San Francisco, I'm mainly interested in their defense, and Coleman do have a really good matchup for tight end as Arizona is number 32 versus tight end position, giving up 17.6 fantasy points per game to the tight end. Kittle's out. You have the Dewilly. Um, but I'm not going to have too many shares of him. I'm not going to play him just based on the DVP, and I don't know that they'll actually have to go that route. So look for San Francisco to get back to what was working, run the ball and play defense. Jacksonville and Indianapolis. Indianapolis is 2.5-point home favorite. 43.5-point over and under. These are usually the type of games where I like the home running back. So I have a little bit of interest in Mack. I didn't have him in the player pool, but the lower total and the lower spread games at home, I tend to like the running games more than I like the passing games. So I have some interest in Mack. I definitely have a little bit of interest in Fournette. I didn't have him in the player pool, but if I had to choose players from each team, those would obviously be the two that I was interested in. Have a little bit of interest in the tight ends from Indianapolis because you have Hilton hurt and Campbell hurt and Funches is out. So the tight ends for Indianapolis become the de facto wide receivers, Doyle and Ebron. Ebron actually got targeted 12 times last week in that game. So kind of look for him. Similar results. Brissett, I think he is set to be back. Let's see, Stafford's out. Brissett's not even carrying an injury designation. So it's too bad that Hilton's out. And Nick Foles is back for Jacksonville. Haven't heard much talk about him at all. He's only 5,600. And I do have a little bit of interest in D.D. Westbrook. Uh, he seemed to drop off when Foles got hurt. I guess they had a pretty good connection in the preseason, and then Foles got hurt in that first game, and they might come out throwing it a little bit more. So this is the end of Gardner Minshew for a little while. Next up is Denver at Minnesota. Minnesota's a 10-point home favorite. Over under is 40 points. This Dalvin Cook and the Minnesota defense. I don't see any other players from this game. Denver's going to be using Brandon Allen. He's not a rookie. He's been in the league, I believe, 3 years or been on three teams. But this is only his second start. And it's, obviously on the road, Minnesota likes to put pressure on the quarterback. So this might not be a very good experience for Denver's quarterback. So I have a lot of interest in Minnesota and Dalvin Cook and their running game. Denver's defense is a little bit stingy. I probably don't have as much interest in Cook as a lot of other people, but I will have some shares of him. He's just $100 cheaper than Dak or Ezekiel Elliott. So, but next is Buffalo at Miami. Buffalo's a 6.5-point road favorite. Game total's 40.5 points. I don't have any interest in the Miami players. Buffalo, Josh Allen has had some phenomenal games against Miami, and he's very capable of doing it against this team. And they've won 2 in a row, coming off a big win against Indianapolis. They're back home. This Buffalo defense is really good. They're number 3 overall. Their running back is committing now, Singletary and Gore, so I really wouldn't have much interest in that. If I had any interest, it'd probably not just the Buffalo defense, but Josh Allen and the John Brown connection. I believe he'll be able to get over the top on Miami. They're just, just a throw together team right now, and for a while that was the first few games of the season, it was load up on players that are playing against Miami. And last is the Jets at Washington. Washington's a 2.5-point favorite. The game total is the lowest on board at 38.5 points. I have very little interest in any players for the Jets. I have a little bit of interest in Crowder. I kind of like Le'Veon Bell. He did have a questionable tag. So keep an eye on that. That's a 1:00 game. So I probably won't have much exposure to him. The Jets are pretty banged up. Washington will have Darius Geis back. He's Adrian Peterson is going to be starting, and Geis is going to just be getting slowly worked back into the game plan. But the big thing for Washington is Haskins is at quarterback, rookie, and has shown the propensity to um, turn the ball over, and just like a couple of the other rookie quarterbacks, that's the growing pains. I just don't have much interest in this game at all. Lowest total on the board, and I just can't find any fantasy relevant. I guess I would probably lean to the Washington defense at home, and as I mentioned, maybe Crowder from the Jets. So that's the game by game breakdown. Now this is a lineup that I've been working on. I mentioned a few things as I was talking about the players in the player pool. I added some players, and this is what I'm working on, and I'll talk about it when I get done. But at quarterback, I want Tom Brady. Running back, I want Miles Sanders. Who is 4,100. The running back, I want James White. So I'm definitely got away from the top chalk running backs. Wide receiver, I want Julian Edelman, obviously, uh, target for Brady. I want Chris Godwin. I know Lattimore's out for New Orleans, which that makes the matchup even juicier for Evans because Evans hasn't done well against Lattimore in the past. But I just have a feeling this is Godwin's game versus New Orleans. And that's how you move the ball against New Orleans is through the air. D.D. Westbrook with Nick Foles back. Tight end is Cook from New Orleans. My flex spot, as I mentioned in my videos, I like to use 3 running backs by getting one into that flex spot. And I'm trying to get to 65 or more touches between Sanders, White, and Jacobs. Sanders and White probably going to get targeted a lot, and Jacobs will probably be in the mid to upper 20s and carries and touches combined. And my defense is the one that I told you that I like. This is straight from my the player pool that I created. Here I have a Brady White, Edelman, bringing it back with Miles Sanders stacked. The game total is only 44 points. I know that. I feel like it'll be higher scoring than that. I just feel that Brady is going completely under owned. He's 7.36% ownership. Sanders is 1.05% ownership. That'd probably go up with if the news is Howard is definitely out. James White 8.25% ownership. Edelman 9.68% ownership. The highest ownership, second highest ownership that I have on this lineup is Godwin at 16.16% ownership, Westbrook at 2.52% ownership, Cook at 2.76% ownership. Josh Jacobs has the highest ownership of any of the players on my lineup here at 20.40% ownership, and Minnesota Vikings at 4.47% ownership. So the total ownership is 72.65% ownership. Projected ownership, which is pretty good. It'll probably definitely be a contrarian, different lineup, and it's just one of the ones. This isn't a cash lineup. This is more of a GPP, large tournament type lineup, and I really like it. And I feel like I have some good value that's obtainable and can get me to where I want to be score wise. So this is the lineup that I'm working in. I don't MME mass multi enter lineups. If I could, I would. Um, Believe me, I think it's smart if you can, use an optimizer and uh, use the players that you have and generate a lot of different randomized lineups. It just makes sense. It's just a sensible way to play. And if I ever get in a position to do that, I will do that. It's still the same research and work. You still have to get the players that you're interested in and get those right. Um, but what I do is I take the player pool that I've created through the week. I use only those players and I put them in the optimizer that I use from a site uh, that I've subscribed to, and I set it to 150 lineups. I set the exposures. I don't want more than 25% of any one player in my lineups. And there's a few that I up, like I up Christian McCaffrey to 40%, and a couple of Josh Jacobs up to 30. There's a couple that I moved up. I make a couple rules, like I always want a quarterback if I stacked with at least one target. I don't like to use multiple running backs from the same team, obviously, and I don't use too many rules, but those are the two big ones. And I just let it go with the player pool that I've developed. And a lot of times I'll get less than 150 because it can't create it. I also set it that I want to use 3 unique players and for each lineup, and that affects how many you can get. But today I was actually able to get 150 lineups out of it, and I will mention that in the past, and I've done it, and it's happened twice this year actually. The player pool that I had, you could have created the lineup that would have won the Millie Maker. I use the Millie Maker in Draftkings as kind of my measuring stick, and I mentioned that when I recap each week as well, and that's what I use to measure. I participate in that contest as well, and so that's what I use to uh, set the bar, so to speak. So I did that today. I ran the 150 lineups. It did give me 150, so possibly there's more lineups that could have been generated. I can only, as I mentioned, I only set it 150, but this is the very first lineup that is spit out with my player pool. At quarterback, it had Lamar Jackson. At running back, Ezekiel Elliott. Next running back, Miles Sanders. Wide receiver, Hollywood Brown, Marquise Brown. Definitely have to watch him. He's got a questionable tag too. Next wide receiver, DJ Moore from Carolina. Next wide receiver, Tyler Boyd from Cincinnati. Tight end was Hawkinson from Detroit. Running back was Josh Jacobs from Oakland. And defensive special teams was the Cardinals. And as I mentioned, I'm not real crazy about. I'm not overly crazy about this lineup. Certainly not crazy about the Cardinals. I can see why you use the Cardinals, and leaves you 500 on the table. I mean, you have Lamar Jackson matched up with um, Marquise Brown. You don't have any pieces of the game. That's the highest total on the board. That's kind of interesting. I mean, Ezekiel Elliott in a potential smash spot. DJ Moore. I don't see if he, McCaffrey's half of their offense. Moore has been getting targeted with a lot of passes from Allen. I don't see both of them going off in the same game, um, but they do have one of the highest implied totals on the board. But Tyler Boyd, I had a lot of interest in him. I can see that with this game. has the potential to shoot out. Has the game totals kind of high. Here you have Hawkinson. You have Elliott come bringing it back with Hawkinson. That makes sense. Then you have Jacobs with Boyd. So some of these correlations make sense. I'll probably put this in a smaller uh, tournament or something, but that's the very first lineup that was generated by the optimizer. So this wraps up the lineup building. I hope this information has been useful and valuable. I want to thank you guys for joining me. I really appreciate the subscribers that I have, the guys that have been following me since I started. My subscriptions have been trending upward, which is a really good thing. And I'm hoping to do more and more with this channel. Start implementing those charts. Please feel free to drop any opinions or comments below. Let me know if there's something else you'd like to see, if the chart's helping you or not, or if you like to see me add something. I'll see what I can do. And I did want to mention that I had someone comment last week about me using. They didn't think it made sense that I was using players from the Bears Detroit game because it had a low total. And in my videos, I do mention that I like to target the games that have the higher totals because those are the games going to have the players needed for those games to be high scoring. But I also say that I look at all the games and I'm looking for value and I'm looking at matchups. And a lot of times, the lower games, I'm not so interested in what the total is, but what the matchup is. Now, the ugly game to me, the Jets and Washington, perhaps that game could be the highest scoring tomorrow. Vegas isn't in the business of giving away money. They said it with a low total, and I believe in following that. But my point is, I don't have any problem with someone criticizing or questioning. I'm going to do what I want to do with my money. You do what you want to do. If this information helps you, I'm all for you, and I'm rooting for you guys. And I really hope when I do recap video that I get some feedback that you guys did well using the player pool that I've created. I would really appreciate it if you guys would share this video, like it, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you get notified when my next video posts. I will be posting Sunday Night Football Showdown video tomorrow afternoon. That's the game between the Bears and the Rams. So I'll have a video for that. And you can follow me on Twitter at winningabout. I try to drop some things in there as well, especially injury report. Don't forget the injury report comes out 11:30 in the morning, and the afternoon one comes out between 2:45 and 3 o'clock. Tomorrow there's only 4 p.m. games, so keep that in mind. And again, I wish you guys luck, and I'll be back tomorrow. My name is Ty Patton. This is all about winning daily fantasy sports. Good luck.